she mentioned a video where a man knocked on Robert's glass case. He died in a car accident that same day? Hello, I'm Pixie Blood, and welcome to Creeped Out. If you like spooky stuff, the paranormal, haunted things, or just being creeped out, you're in the right place, because we're going to get creepy here. I brought my spooky doll collection just for you, and today, this is episode 1, we're going to be talking about haunted dolls. It's my favorite topic, haunted dolls. Let's get into some creepy stuff. Have you ever heard of Robert the doll? I'm sure you have, especially if you like haunted things and especially if you like haunted dolls. Robert the doll is one of the most notorious haunted dolls. Currently, he resides in a museum, and hundreds of people go every day to visit him. Every day, every week. I don't know if there's that many people visiting him, but there's a lot of people that go specifically to visit him, and it's said that the doll caused car accidents, broken bones, caused people to lose their jobs, divorce. So get cozy, grab a little tea, a little hot chocolate, maybe grab your little doll friend, and let's listen to a spooky story. Robert Eugene Otto was born in the year 1900, the youngest son of parents Thomas and Minnie Otto. He grew up on his family's wealthy estate in Key West, Florida, and he was by all accounts a deeply imaginative and playful young soul. Perhaps that is why at the age of 4 he was gifted a wordless and impressionable new playmate in the form of a doll. Did you have a doll when you were a kid growing up? I don't think I did. I had a blankie, but I didn't really have a doll that I carried around everywhere. Now I have a lot. Accounts differ on whether the doll was a gift from Jean's grandfather, who procured it while abroad in Germany, or from the housemaid with whom the boy was particularly close. Everyone always blames it on the maid. But from what we do know, these facts are certain. Jean loved his new doll. He took it everywhere with him, snuck it scraps of food during meals, and even propped it up next to him while taking baths. That is disturbing. It was life-size, taking on the appearance of a boy around the same age as Jean, and was handmade almost entirely of straw. It was dressed in a white and blue sailor's outfit, complete with a little cap atop his head. But these clothes were not a part of its original design accessories. No, the sailor's outfit was provided by Jean himself, who decided to dress up his new playmate in his own clothing. That's kind of cool, to be able to put your own clothes on the doll and like dress it up. Oh my god, that's kind of fun. I love that. Creepy? Certainly. I think that's kind of slay. I don't know about creepy, but okay. Even more unnerving is the fact that he named the doll Robert, essentially marking the doll as a kind of twin of himself. All of these factors combined to create an eerie symmetry and a blurring of the lines between boy and toy. Oh, that's good. If only that strange uncanniness had stopped there. Wow, so he dressed up the doll in his clothes. He gave the doll his own name. That's some sort of like eerie body doubling magic right there. I don't like it. Jean's parents began to notice that when Jean would talk to the doll in his room, another voice seemed to be talking back as Robert. While this could have very well been Jean giving Robert his own voice as part of their playtime ritual, this other voice sounded markedly different than Jean's. It was deeper and more rough sounding. His parents would sometimes enter Jean's room to find the boy huddled up in the fetal position in a corner, looking terrified, while Robert sat in a chair on the other side of the room. One time, they even heard Jean screaming in the middle of the night, and upon bursting into his room, found it in a state of complete disarray, with all of the furniture knocked over, and Robert sitting placidly at the foot of the bed, while Jean cowered under the covers. So, okay, let's just say this kid was doing this all on his own. He would have had to just like wreck the room, place the doll nice and neatly on the edge of his bed, and then like get under the covers. Like that sounds a little bit too, like in the middle of the night. I don't know who's doing that. Also, if you put the doll on the edge of the bed and then went under the covers, wouldn't that like knock over the doll? Like how was it still sitting up properly? You know what I mean? This was not the first or the last mess that Jean would attribute to Robert. Robert did it. Became something of a catchphrase in the Otto household to explain every broken toy or shredded piece of clothing, but most of the time Jean's parents simply dismissed their son's incessant pleas as the clumsy lies of a naughty child. However, there were an increasing number of similar incidents that they couldn't so easily explain away. They couldn't explain how visitors heard the sounds of giggles and footsteps coming from different rooms in the house. They couldn't explain the servants. Yikes. It was a different time, I guess. doesn't make it right. They couldn't explain how the servants found that Robert had moved to a completely different location to where they had just seen him moments earlier, seemingly of his own accord. And they definitely couldn't explain how Robert would sometimes change his facial expressions or be seen moving from window to window outside the house or even blink. That's another one that a lot of people say is that his facial features change or his expressions change. Like he'll be blinking or smiling and then frowning. I'm just curious as to why they still had the doll at this point. Like, if all this stuff is happening, wouldn't you just get rid of it? Like, why are you keeping it? I guess the son was really attached to it, but like, I don't know, you're the parent. You can do whatever you want. Throw the doll away. Eventually, after years of all the Ottos living through pretty much every haunted doll movie cliche you can imagine, Jean's great aunt came up with a solution while visiting the house. Okay, well, here we go. A solution. She instructed them to place Robert in a wooden box in the attic, separating him from Jean and restricting his movements. Okay, well, that's just cruel. Why, like, why are you keeping it just in a separate little box? Like, you could just give it away. She was convinced that this would rob the doll of any and all of the malicious power it held over the household. The next morning, the aunt was found dead in her room. No one puts Robert in a box. The doctors ruled that it was a stroke, but Thomas and Minnie weren't so sure. And so, out of fear of further reprisals, Robert was released from the attic and returned to Jean's side. I wonder what Jean's feelings of the doll were at this point. Like, is he stoked? Like, is he happy to have this doll? Or is he scared of it too? Many years later, Robert Eugene Otto returned to the house in Florida Keys as a young man. He was now a painter and had married a pianist called Anne, who he'd met while traveling in Europe. The young couple had returned to America and planned to start their new family within Jean's childhood home, now that the parents had passed away. Oh, rip. I wonder if the doll, like, what, did the doll cause the parents to pass away? But while Thomas and Minnie Otto were both gone, Robert was still very much there. So the doll was still in the house. I think the doll killed the parents. And to Anne, the wife, her increasing discomfort, her husband seemed to pick up right where he and the doll had left off. Besties! Yay! Robert would be carried by Jean from room to room throughout the day. That is a whole ass adult carrying around a doll. Like, what? Like, imagine your husband is just carrying around a doll all day. He sat at the table with the couple during meal times and eventually kept watch over them at night as they slept in bed. No way. That's a hard no for me. Eventually, Anne got fed up with this arrangement and successfully convinced her husband to lock up the doll back in the attic. But the strangeness didn't stop there. Robert would often be found sitting in a rocking chair, staring out the window as he swayed back and forth, even though he was supposed to be locked up at the time. I wonder if Jean was sneaking him out. At night, Jean and Anne would hear the sounds of footsteps coming from the attic and the sound of childlike laughter echoing through the halls. Well, at least it's happy. I mean, that's like, a bonus. While this is unconfirmed, it's said that Anne was driven insane by these hauntings and eventually took her own life. That's sad. After Otto's death in 1974, the house went through a series of different owners, nearly all of whom reported strange encounters with the doll. One woman claims that when she was a young girl, Robert would follow her around the house and on one occasion even tried to strangle her. It is said that her parents awoke one night to the sound of laughter in the room and turned on the light, only to find Robert sitting at the foot of the bed with a kitchen knife in his hand. This is what inspired the story of Chucky, the Chucky movies. While these later stories are admittedly hard to verify and perhaps even harder to believe at face value, it is much easier for us to get a sense of Robert's current status. He was eventually donated to the East Martello Museum in Key West, where he currently sits in a glass display along with a small stuffed animal made of straw, his pet. It's said that Robert still displays a paranormal behavior to this day, such as blinking, moving, changing his expression, and this is backed up by extensive eyewitnesses on accounts by visitors and the museum staff. Okay, so that's the backstory on Robert, and now we're going to listen to somebody who visited him. This boy was visiting Florida with his family, and he says, "At the entrance stood a red-headed woman in her 50s, the museum guard. We spoke with her about the exhibits and, of course, Robert. She told us, don't mess around with him. If you want to take a photo, you must ask permission first. She also warned us that people who disrespect Robert often regret it. They send apology letters back to the museum begging for forgiveness. She mentioned a video where a man knocked on Robert's glass case. He died in a car accident that same day? Okay, I, being a curious little French kid, asked if I could ask Robert for permission to take a photo in French. The woman smiled and said, "Try it, you'll be the very first." We began our tour, all of us giddy but nervous. We explored every corner of the fort, searching for Robert. We passed cannons, rusty weapons, military uniforms. Wait, so this museum is like random old stuff? It's not... Because I've seen videos of people going to visit different haunted dolls, and they're always in these museums that are dedicated to things like that, like haunted objects, creepy things, whatever. But I guess this one is just in like an old fort. Maybe he's been rehomed, I wonder. Until we turned a corner, and there he was, Robert. The century-old doll blamed for countless deaths and paranormal experiences, the inspiration for Annabelle and Chucky. He sat tall in a chair, enclosed in a glass case. Behind him, letters of apology from all over the world. Mexico, Germany, Qatar, all written in English, pleading with him to lift the curses they believed he'd cast. So I guess, like, he speaks English, so they have to write him in English, which maybe is why this person is writing the story, because he asked permission in French, so I wonder if that's gonna cost him. Tabarnak! We didn't dare disrespect him. I gathered my courage, walked up to the glass, and said in French, "Hello, Robert." "Bonjour, Robert." "I am from France, and I'd be delighted to take your picture. May I?" It was a world first. Okay, well, you don't know that. Don't get cocky, sir. I snapped the photo and immediately sent it to all of my friends on Snapchat. Then we rushed to finish our visit and return to the hotel. The next morning, our departure day, we skipped breakfast to save time. Around 11 a.m., we saw Wendy's and decided to stop for a quick meal. We ordered, ate, paid, and headed back to the car. But something was wrong. All the windows, except for the front one, had shattered. There was broken glass both inside and outside the car. That meant the glass exploded from within. Even stranger, nothing had been taken. Our luggage was untouched. My headphones were still exactly where I'd placed them. Nothing moved. We hadn't been robbed. We hadn't been vandalized. The windows just shattered. All at once. As if Robert did it. Dun, dun, dun. So that's the history of Robert the Doll. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. This is really exciting. First episode of Creeped Out. Let me know your thoughts, your comments. Let me know what spooky haunted topics you want me to cover next time. And if you have any spooky haunted paranormal experiences or stories, email them to me. I'll leave my email down below. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want more. I'm just happy to be here and talking to you guys. This is very exciting. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Stay creeped out. Stay creeped out. Stay creepy.